so much. Appreciate your everything that Good Marketing is doing. Great to have them on board as our public relations consultant for the Michigan Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission. We want to kick off our press conference in light of our upcoming second round of public hearings, and want to thank the members of the press for being here with us and the ability to get the word out. We cannot stress the importance of how much we want to have public engagement during the second round of public hearings to ensure that people show up and speak up to assist the commission to draw fair maps. Once again, hashtag show up, speak up to assist the commission and to hashtag draw fair maps. With me this afternoon is none other than our chairperson from Wayne County, tough as nails and knows how to do the maps in her sleep, a mother bear of 4 and a loving wife and an attorney as well. We have MICRC Commissioner Rebecca Zatella, who is also the chair. Also with us today from Lansing, Michigan, the financial cooperative himself, always looking to a way to facilitate and make things happen and ensure no one, I repeat, no one is excluded. Very happy to have Commissioner MC Rothhorn, who also serves as the commission chair. And then last but not least, the Dean of Process and Procedure, and wants to make sure the numbers line up. The one who will always be the consciousness to truth. Very happy to have from Rochester Hills, none other than Commissioner Doug Clark. So they'll be with us this afternoon to share with us and to talk of different things about the process. I want you to know that we've made some differences on behalf of the commission from the first round of public hearings to the second round of public hearings. One of the big changes that we're excited about is the public portal station. The public portal station. That's going to be staffed by volunteer students from the Michigan State University, as well as the University of Michigan. That will be open at each public hearing site from 12 p.m. to 8 o'clock p.m. Once again, from 12 p.m. to 8 o'clock p.m. And there'll be a recess between 3:30 to 4:30. Anyone who is from the public can come in and get assistance on how to draw maps, get assistance on how to comment on maps, get assistance on how to provide written testimony right there at the public portal station. This is a huge enhancement that we're excited about having volunteers to assist those who may not be computer savvy, who may not have access to the internet, or who may, because of time constraints, might have to leave the public hearing and haven't had a chance to speak. They can go to our public portal station. Once again, it is open between 12 o'clock p.m. to 8 o'clock p.m. and there'll be a break where it'll be closed between 3:30 and 4:30. So excited to have that opportunity. Another thing is we'll have monitors across the room. So if anyone has site challenges or wants to get a closer look at the maps and what the commission is doing, you can actually go around the room. We'll have 80-inch monitors where people can walk up and see exactly what is taking place with regards to the commission. So we're really excited about those enhancements and what that means. I'm also excited about 211. Michigan 211 is a partner with us. They can translate in more than 200 languages. And if you need any assistance whatsoever in signing up to provide public comment, dial 211 and they will be able to assist you with regards to signing you up to speak. Once again, although we have 5 public hearings, as you know, coming up this Wednesday in Detroit, Thursday, we will be in Lansing, Friday we'll be in Grand Rapids, a week from today, we're in Gaylord, and a week from tomorrow, we're in Flint. You can sign up and provide remote public comments, or if you want to comment through our Zoom virtually at any location. It does not have to be what's closer to you. And so don't look at the location of the public hearing as a barrier to your participation. You can sign up and provide public comments or even attend and provide public comments at any of the 5 locations. So really excited about that. And I can't stress enough that in order for the commission to hashtag draw fair maps it is important for citizens to hashtag show up and speak up. Without further ado, we're going to bring in our chairperson, Commissioner Rebecca Zatella.
Thank you so much, Director Woods. Yeah, I just want to elaborate a little bit on the public portal stations that we're going to have for the first time. This is a new feature of our public hearings. We're very excited about it. It's going to give individuals the ability to come into a public hearing, and if they choose to do so, they can actually pull up maps on those portals. They can submit their comments right then and there by typing them in on the portal. If they have any challenges with typing it in themselves, we will have people there to assist them in drawing maps, assist them in submitting communities of interest, and otherwise just helping people to provide that feedback that is so valuable to us in drawing these maps. In addition, we're going to have monitors around the room so that people can see the maps that are being talked about, see the maps that are being presented, look at their particular areas that they're interested in, and have them large screens so that it's more accessible to individuals who want to look at the maps rather than just looking on a small computer screen. And this just gets into our dedication and our efforts to continue to have to take steps to reduce that digital divide that's out there. We want to make sure that people have the ability to comment, that people have the ability to contact us, to submit their comments, to submit their maps, whether that's through Michigan 211, whether it's through our direct mail campaign. We're also running radio ads, local television ads, and cable television ads, all in an effort to get that widespread participation that we feel is so critical to assist us in perfecting these draft maps that we have. Edward, are you still?
This is Commissioner Clark. I'll take it.
Yeah, go ahead, Commissioner Clark, if you want to pick up from there.
Thank you very much, Rebecca. One of the things that we've done just this past week to help with the public hearings is we've increased the time that each individual has the opportunity to speak to the commission. Originally, back in the early spring, we started off with a 2-minute time frame, and we had a relatively low volume at that point in time. The volume increased significantly as we went forward. From a hearings perspective, it increased. Some hearings 50 people, some 120 people. And when we had the comments in our weekly or daily meetings, we gained significant volume there too, and we had to cut it back. We cut it back to a minute. We found that coming into the second round of hearings, it would benefit all of us, both the citizens and the commission, to increase that, and we increased it to 90 minutes each. That gives them an opportunity to get the maps up that they want to take a look at up on the big screens that Rebecca mentioned, and give us a opportunity to navigate to the area that they're specifically talking about. So I think that's going to work very well for us.
If it's 90 minutes, it won't, but if it's 90 seconds, it will.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. One of the things we've done to assist the citizens is on our web portal, on the very first page up in the top, we've got a link, and that link will bring up an index of maps. And we've codenamed the maps. The maps that were developed collaboratively with the commission were codenamed with tree names, such as oak and pine and so forth. And then the individual maps that each of the commissioners had the opportunity to submit if they chose are codenamed with their names and indicates whether it's a House, a Senate, or a congressional map. So that's available by clicking the link, and you can get to that, and there's a link for each one of the maps, and you can bring those up and take a look at them. And I think that'll be very beneficial, not only for people to look at it prior to the meetings, but also at the hearings where we can get the maps brought up quickly, so we can take a look at them and understand completely what the people's comments are referencing. One of the other things that we get constant questions about is how do you incorporate public comment when you're drawing the maps and in our decision-making process. We have a number of ways that we do that. So one of the tools we've got with our map drawing software is we're able to bring up data relative to specific census categories. So for example, we can bring up Asian population in a certain area, and it shows up as dots in the different townships or the precincts. And the bigger the dot, the higher the population. And the smaller the dot, the lower the population. So an example would be Canton Township or Canton County, or I'm sorry, Canton Township, which is a county in Oakland. And what we identified when we brought up the Asian population on it, we saw that the top part of Canton Township was had a significant Asian population, and the southern part had a much less population. So that gave us an opportunity to use that tool and ensure that we kept those ethnic groups together. And so that's one tool. The other tool is the public comments we receive, not only at our meetings, but on the portal. And each of the commissioners reads through those comments every day. And we apply those and discuss those when we're mapping certain areas. And give you a couple examples. One, we've got a lot of comments relative to the Arabic population that's in the Dearborn and Dearborn Heights area. And when you take a look at Arabic population on the census, it comes across as Caucasian because they don't have a specific category. So we're able to take that type of input from the public and our knowledge from living in those certain areas and apply it to the maps that we draw. So that's one good example. Another example would be the lakeshore communities. We've got numerous comments, both on the east side and the west side of the state, that lakeside communities is a community of interest, and that should be represented appropriately as we draw the maps. You can't get that data out of the census, but we get it out of the public. And we apply that as best as we can, according to the population standards that we're required to meet for the Congressional House and Senate seats. So let me turn it over to Sue Hammersmith, and she's going to talk about the public hearing guidelines.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are excited to share a little bit about the public hearings that are coming up starting on Wednesday in Detroit. I'll tell you a little bit about the logistics. First of all, these are noticed from 1 to 8 p.m. each day. So the doors will open at noon. People can come in and sign up to give their live public comment from noon on. The meetings will start at 1. Commission will typically do a little bit of business and then get into the public comment. There will be a recess from 3:30 to 5, and then the public hearing will start up once again. And the commissioners will stay until they've heard all the people who want to speak who have signed up by 7 p.m. So that's what happens in the live public hearings. We're excited to have that comment. The commissioners look forward to hearing from people about their communities of interest and about what's important to them and what impacts them as they elect people to represent them. There will also be remote public comment that people can call in or get on a Zoom link and come into the meeting and speak with the commission. Not everybody can attend in person, so we offer the remote opportunity. Those need to be signed up by 3 p.m. in the afternoon, so then those people can be invited into the Zoom meeting to give their public comment, and that will happen after the live public comment has taken place. So we've had wonderful experiences hearing from people all across the state in regular meetings and in the previous round of public hearings. And the commissioners really look forward to the input from the public in these upcoming public hearings. They do expect people to be respectful and act with decorum. And of course, they expect to be respectful in exchange and to listen very carefully to what people are saying to them. I think that's really all I have to say about the sign up for the public comment. Again, we just encourage people to attend, and if they cannot attend, to talk to the commission remotely. And also the public comment sign up stations that will be available to people are another avenue. So by any means, people can give public comment. This commission will be listening. So I will turn it over to Commissioner Rothhorn.
Thank you. Yeah, well said. I think we've heard it before, but the hashtag show up, speak up. We need the input from our citizens. It's a citizen-driven process to draw fair maps, right? Hashtag draw fair maps. We need the citizen input. It's part of the constitutional mandate. And so without it, we cannot draw these processes. And it's all in a transparent manner. So we're doing this. Hashtag show up, speak up. It's part of our duty, and it's part of what we enjoy. Like many of the commissioners have said it. This is what we enjoy most. And Director Hammersmith said it already. Like we look forward to it, and we can't do it without so many of the partners. I think Commissioner Zatella already said, right, we've got this great public hearing portal station, and we've got volunteers from the League of Women Voters. They're helping us with this on-site registration, right? It means a great deal to us. These are volunteers who have essentially, right, been a part of this democratic process from the beginning or just getting started, but they're a crucial part of how we can actually run these public hearings effectively. And so we, the commission, can hear the public in all the different ways that have been addressed. And so much of it, like Commissioner Clark said, is like, it's crucial. Like we need this public input if we're going to actually get these maps accurate and fair. So we've got the League of Women Voters, we've got Michigan 211 assisting with information, registering people remotely. We've got the University of Michigan and Michigan State University students assisting with the public portal stations. And we've got the Voters Not Politicians group that's assisting with on-site registration, in addition to the League of Women Voters again. And they're all volunteering at these at the 5 different public hearings that have been discussed before. So yeah, that show up, speak up, hashtag show up, speak up, and hashtag draw fair maps. We can't do it without these volunteers. And yeah, there's a lot of appreciation that I speak for all 13 of our commissioners and all of our staff. And yeah, the people who are working on this for over a year now, but we're coming to the final piece. It's really important. And yeah, show up, speak up. It's so important. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I think that's, I'm just gonna wrap us up. I think that's the final edition, unless there's others that need to help us close. Mr. Woods.
Thank you so much, MC. Really appreciate that. Also, thank you to Sue. Just want to reiterate that for those who are interested in remote public comments, that ends at 3:00 p.m. on each day, 3:00 p.m. each day. And if you need assistance, you can call Michigan, actually 211-211, and they will help you sign up to provide remote public comments at any one of the 5 of the public hearings, any one of the 5 of the public hearings. All right, I see that we have questions at this time, and Lauren Gibbons from MLife, you're up.
Hi, thanks for doing the call. And my question is primarily for the commissioners. Under your schedule, you're expected to vote out the next round of maps on November 5th. And I guess my question is, as the public sees the more specific lines and has recommendations, if there needs to be wholesale changes, do you think commissioners would be, 1, willing, and 2, able to make major changes to the current drafts in that week or so after the public hearings wrap up?
Thank you. Let's put the commissioners on so that they can answer the question from Ms. Gibbons.
I can take that. I'll offer, like, we are constitutionally bound to do this in a process that includes, yeah, if there's wholesale changes that need to happen, we will do that. We will do what is right. It's a legal process with public input. So, I mean, we're not afraid to do it. We just recognize that we're trying to do this in a time frame that doesn't shortchange the public process, but we want to make sure that we get these maps done in a time frame that allows all these, basically we're the upstream part, all the things that happen downstream, so to speak, where the ballots, our maps turn into ballots. We know that that's a part of it too. So we will weigh all those considerations and but we will not shirk our duty to make wholesale changes if needed.
Commissioner Zatella or Commissioner Clark, did you want to provide any additional feedback?
No, I just second what Commissioner Rothorn said, that I don't see any reason why we wouldn't make any changes that we feel are necessary based on public comments. I mean, we're certainly not taking the position that these maps are done by any stretch of the imagination. So if major changes need to be made, then I think we're ready and willing to make them.
Yeah, and I agree with the other two commissioners. One of the advantages we've got is for the congressional and the House and the Senate maps, we have multiple maps. And it gives us an opportunity to choose among those and adjust the one that we feel most appropriate from the public comment that we get. And that's why the public comment is so important.
Thank you. John Hewitt, please identify your media organization. Hello, John, are you available? Okay, we'll go to Ben Solis with Conware.
Are you able to hear me now?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, we can hear you now, John.
It had the host not allowing me to self-unmute. So I'm glad to be with you. Thank you very much for the opportunity. I don't mean to be too remedial with the question, and I had two, if you don't mind. When I hear Commissioner Rothorn talk about, accuracy and fairness, not to be flippant, but based on what standard? Meaning you'll go into these public hearings talking about redrawing maps based on comment, but given the volatility of redistricting and how districts have been gerrymandered in the past and wound over, multiple different ways geographically, revisit for me, please, the standard you're adhering to in terms of communities based on population centers. Help me with what you're targeting here, because obviously one way or the other, you're going to be, catching a skeptical eye, if you will.
So I think the idea is that these fair maps, right, that are accurate are drawn in a transparent way. So the idea, John, right, frankly, we're doing this. We know, everyone knows it's complicated, right? Everyone knows that this mapping process is not easy and that we have to hold a lot of complexity to sort of get to accurate and fair. So the point is, right, we don't have one set of criteria. We have a ranked order of 7 criteria. And I think we're just going to try to, in as methodical a way as possible, right, and in as legal a way, take in all the public comment and take in every criteria in its ranked order to come up with accurate and fair. And frankly, that's what we're doing, and you'll see it. Everyone will see it live. It is transparent. We are not doing anything that's not live and live streamed. So I think I don't know how else to answer it, because I know that there's skepticism, and frankly, this is the new way to do it. Like it's new, so it's hard to believe that government by the citizens can be done in such a transparent way, but it's happening. It's live, and it will be done so that everyone will see it and understand at least why we made or how we made these complex decisions.
Let me comment a little about what MC just spoke about. One of the items that we've done, one of the things that we've done is hired a voting rights attorney to ensure that we comply with the Voting Rights Act. It's a very complex act, and he's been through this a number of times and is very knowledgeable about it. We've also hired a racial polarized voting analyst, and she is very astute on the things that need to be applied. We also had Dr. Hanley, who's our racial polarized voting analyst, put together some partisan fairness criteria for us. And she gave us a presentation and talked about partisan fairness and talked about how the courts have addressed it to this point. even though there aren't any standard guidelines, which she indicated. And she's developed a mathematical model that's been integrated into our mapping tool. And we as commissioners, once we draw a map or a potential map, we can run that and get the partisan fairness criteria that she's identified for us. So we've got a lot of assistance from our different consultants, and that's been very useful for us as we moved along.
Follow up if I may. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I would just add to that this entire process has been data driven. Based on the advice from our voting rights attorney and our racially polarized voting expert, we've complied with the first criteria, which is Voting Rights Act compliance. And then we moved on to equal population, which obviously is driven by the census data. So that's, again, data driven. Do we have equal populations in our districts as close as possible? Then we move on to contiguity. That, again, is a very easy metric to satisfy. Communities of interest, we receive feedback from individuals, and we use those maps and data to, again, look at the census data, look at the other data that we have, and determine if those communities of interest can be incorporated and should be incorporated. And then we move on, as Commissioner Clark said, to partisan fairness, where, again, it's data driven. We're looking at previous election results and using that to come up with analysis that's showing us, are these plans compliant with that particular requirement? So we have the ranked criteria, we're following the ranked criteria, and we are using data to guide our process along with citizen feedback and comments. And so there is a lot of data that goes into it, and we are relying on that to help us come up with fair and transparent maps.
And forgive me, in the interest of time, and I'm sorry for not a very nuanced question, and I will just ask again for clarity and then move on and let somebody else have access. But I've seen examples in the past of districts that have been basically extended around, in an unorthodox manner to give what would be apparently an advantage to one party or another. Is there, is that still going to exist? Will this be more population focused and more, in block oriented sections? Or, I'm just trying to get a handle on whether the actions of the past, where districts would span what one would think would not be appropriate areas, is that days gone by, or will we see examples of that continue?
I think the shape of a district isn't one of our constitutional requirements. We have 7 ranked criteria, and that's what we're following. And if those ranked criteria and the data lead us to draw a district that is not a perfect rectangle or a perfect square, then that's where the data has driven us, because shape is not a criteria. So I don't think anyone on the commission would say to you that we're only going to have perfect little blocks or perfect little triangles or perfect little squares, because we have to follow the data and the requirements in the Constitution.
And I'd like to just expand on that, because I would like the media to help the public know that yes, gerrymandering is about the shape of the district, right? At that salamander shape. But the process of gerrymandering was done in back rooms. It was not a transparent process. We are not gerrymandering. Those shapes, right? I think what I'd like the media to sort of help the public learn is, right, it's not about the shape that makes it gerrymandered. It's the process, right? The idea that the people, right, citizens, we were randomly plucked out of our lives. We applied for this job, right? But we were randomly plucked out of our lives and put into this position to do it in a transparent way and to draw these fair maps. And it's that process that is redistricting. It's not done in a back room. It's not done by professionals. We are citizens, just like everyone else. Like, all of us are citizens, and we're not professionals, but we do have experts and a lot of data driven. I think both my fellow commissioners have spoken to it very well, right? Everyone is able to do this. And I think that it's the new way. It's going to happen 10 years from now. It's going to happen 20 years again. What I would like the news media to help us get the word out is, like, it's not the shape of the district that makes it a gerrymandered district. The shape is, it's the process, right? We are doing this in a redistricting process. It's open and transparent.
Yeah, and I would even add on that, it's not even so much the shape, it's the intention. And I think, John, you hit on that in your question, that the districts were drawn with odd shapes with the intention of giving one party or another a partisan advantage. That's the key right there, is the intention to give an unfair advantage to someone That is not what this commission is doing. We are not attempting to give an unfair advantage to anyone. We're actually attempting to do the exact opposite and makes the maps fair and balanced based on our constitutional criteria.
And we have spent a good part of our last 2 or 3 weeks focusing on partisan fairness on everything that we do. And the tool that Dr. Henley had put together for us has been invaluable for us to accomplish that.
Mhm.
I'd like to reemphasize to make sure that we know that I'd like to reemphasize and make sure that the reporters know there's a difference between APOL standards and the 7 rank redistricting criteria. And we just need to reiterate, as our commissioners have done so clearly, that they are bound by the 7 rank redistricting criteria as outlined in the Constitution, not the APOL standards of old. So that in and of itself is a unique difference that you could help the public to understand and to compare and contrast so that they can hashtag show up, speak up to assist a commission to hashtag draw fair maps. Ben Solis with Conware.
Thank you all. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. So, we've heard a number of groups note that their submitted maps do far better on partisan fairness and respect communities of interest more than the commission's collaboratively and individually created maps. With that in mind, how much deference will the commission give those maps when you exit the public hearing schedule? It seems like it could be easier to augment a map that's more on the mark than one that's not. And we're hearing from stakeholders that there's quite a bit of work. So I'm wondering what your thoughts are on that.
My personal thoughts is if there is a map that is out there that complies with our other constitutional criteria and not just partisan fairness, that would be something as a commission that we would look at and consider and be happy to look at and consider. There are many criteria we have to meet, and partisan fairness is quite a ways down on the list. And so we have to look at the other criteria first, and as well as partisan fairness.
Thank you very much. Beth LeBach, Detroit News.
Thank you for doing this and taking questions today. I guess knowing or understanding that you guys don't have maps finalized, that there's still time to make changes, do you guys have any worry about the ability of the commission to come to a consensus in December on these maps? I know there are certain majorities that are going to be needed to pass the maps ultimately. Do you guys worry at all that you'll be able to reach that?
No, I don't believe so, Beth. We as a group have worked very well together. I was totally amazed at that, particularly since we get 13 people that were randomly chosen to do this. There's no vicious arguments between us. We cooperate with each other. We listen to each other's views, and we apply them appropriately. So I don't anticipate that at the end of the year, we're going to get confronted with the issue that you just mentioned.
I'll echo that, and I'll just offer that, right? We also understand that this process is a well thought out process. We've got these constitutional mandates. It helps us with the process. So we'll get there, right? We're just trusting the process one step at a time. And yeah, no need to worry at this point that we won't make it. We'll get there.
All right. Thank you very much. Gatini Tinsley. Gatini, I hope I'm saying your name correctly. Gatini Tinsley, and please identify your news organization.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Our news organization is out of Alpena, WBKB TV 11 News.
Thank you. Go ahead with your question.
Okay, my question is actually viewer based for viewers, because you've mentioned it, each of you have mentioned it in its own right, but just for the viewers, in the most simplistic of ways, can you tell us how Michiganders' voices will be specifically taken into consideration?
I would say that they have been taken into consideration ever since that first round of public hearing, and even before. There has been no time in our process over the last, I'll say 6 months since May, that we have not included the voice of the people.
Right.
what specifically have you done to include the voice of the people? Just name 3 things.
So the communities of interest is a way that has helped us guide every map line that we've drawn since we've finished our first round of public hearings. So that would be in July. The public comment portal helps us understand when we have made a draw and we get feedback, whether that's at a public meeting, meaning the public comment portion of a meeting that we're having, we have adjusted based on that public comment, not always, but that's a second specific example when we have a district and a number of people help us understand that that's not the right way to do it. You can do it differently. It sometimes conflicts with our legal criteria, so we can't always take it into consideration. But those are 2 specific examples, that community of interest and then the public comment that after we've drawn a district that helps us adjust and helped us understand if we can do something differently to please the communities that our lines cover or intersect with.
Yeah.
Does that
And I
help?
would-
Yes,
There's
it
some
does.
areas, excuse me, there's some areas that are contentious among the public. An example would be, and what we do is we draw multiple maps to deal with that. For the example would be Midland. There's a big push for the people in Midland and Midland Township to stay together. But there's also another faction up in Midland that thinks they should be part of the industrial complex in Bay City and Flint and so forth. So we've got a map that integrates the city of Midland, not the township, with Bay City. And we've got another one that incorporates Midland with the county. And we're going to get public feedback on that again in the second round of hearings. And we definitely want to hear more input and more comments relative to that sort of thing. So that's how we kind of protect both points of view. And we're going to have to make a decision at some point in time, which we think is the most appropriate way to go based on what the public tells us.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Thank you. And then do you anticipate any changes to the boundaries of District 1? That's on behalf of my manager.
District 1 being the current
Alpena.
district or the proposed district?
The current district.
For which map? Which map?
I'm not sure. That's a question off my manager.
We've got a District 1 in the congressional, a District 1 in the state senate, and a
Yeah.
District 1 in the state house.
Oh,
Yeah.
geez. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know how to answer that. So
Yeah.
I would say possibly, yes. That would
All right.
be the answer.
All right.
Okay, thank you guys.
Thank you so much, Skatini. Appreciate that. Jacob Klanklers from MICRC News. Jacob.
Hi there, commissioners. I wanted to ask you, what would you say to some of the feedback you've gotten and will get about kind of the standard for majority minority? There are some folks out there saying that for majority minority should be 50% plus 1. And I believe your Voting Rights Act Council has advised you lower numbers based on the map. So wanted to hear your reaction to that.
I could start. I think what we're going to look for is more data. Like I think we've said it before, but right, voter turnout and the data that we can understand how people turn out in a district is a crucial part of the way we'll answer that and how much cushion. But we do have from our racially polarized voting analyst, right? We have data, right, that tells us that we should be at a certain percentage, 35% or something, right? But less than the 50%, right? And so until we get the voter turnout data, right, that helps us understand if we should build that cushion in, we will get that data and we will have it. And that's what we're going to be adjusting, after our public hearings, second round, we will be able to address that directly with data. We understand the fears and we definitely hear the concerns, right? And some of our commissioners have expressed the same fear. So we understand it, and we're trying to do this in a legal sort of data-driven process that allows, so we hear the fears of the people, and we're going to address them, and we're going to do that with data.
Right. And then I would add to that we can comply with the Voting Rights Act, but not necessarily have a minority majority African-American district. It's our understanding that following Dr. Hanley's racially polarized voting analysis and our expert, Dr. Adelson's advice as well, or Mr. Adelson's advice as well, that we can comply with the Voting Rights Act and have good, strong ability to elect districts without necessarily having to have a majority district as part of that. And so that analysis and data has factored into our map drawing and has resulted in the maps that we have today, the draft proposed maps.
All right, thank you. Eric Lloyd with Channel 9 and 10 News.
Hello, I was just wondering if you guys are feeling or changing your strategy, feeling pressure on the timetable of all this. I've spoken with members of Congress, of the State House. They're all waiting to see what districts they're going to be in, who they're going to be running against, who they're going to be representing. And they're kind of just sitting there waiting. And by the time we get these maps finalized, it's going to be about 10 months of a sprint to the election. So I was just wondering if that is playing any role into how you guys are handling this.
Well, we know we've got to meet the timeline because there is a lot of work that's got to be done after we complete our work. And that work would be done by the Department of State, by the county clerks, the city clerks, the township clerks, as well as the candidates, as you mentioned, knowing what districts they're in and getting the appropriate signatures and getting the signatures validated. So and the big push has got to be toward the August primary, which is significant. So there's all this extra or extraneous work that happens after we do our job. So, and let me comment about the pressure. We've always been under a strict timeline. We knew back in early spring that the data was going to get delayed, but we had some things that we could do, and the way we managed it, we ensured our public hearings, and we had 16 of those got done during May and June. And according to the Constitution, we had to have those before we started drawing maps. Now, in the interim, we drew maps, but we drew them from the state of Ohio. We didn't draw them from Michigan, so that we weren't, so that it was indicated that we following the Constitution as is. That gave us the opportunity to work with software and see how it functioned and so forth. So we've always had a time crunch because of the late release of the census, but we've been able to manage around it at this point.
Thank you. At this time, we'll hear from Channel 5 WNAM, Trevor, and I hope I'm saying your last name correct, Sokoki. If not, please correct me.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, Trevor.
It's Sahaki, but don't worry about it.
Sahaki, thank you, Sahaki.
No
I know I
worries.
took hooked on phonics, got to get it right. Thank you.
So my question is in regards to what Commissioner Clark was saying about the push from Midland and Midland Township to be separate.
Excuse me, Trevor, you're muffled. Can we just make sure we hear you clearly?
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yeah, a little bit better. Just get closer to the mic.
Okay, we'll hope this works. Let me know if you can't hear me. My question is in regards to the push from Midland and Midland Township to be separate, and another push from Midland to be part of Bay City and Flint. I was wondering how, if those two sides continue to push back and forth, how that will end up being decided. Is it a simple majority, and that will be what that went with? And I'm also curious as to how that design went into the first place when you have Representatives Molinar and Kilby that look like they may be facing off against each other.
All right, well, one, we got to make sure we will not be having, obviously, deliberations, during the middle of the press conference. But what we can tell you is, as it relates to the votes, when it comes to the maps, you'll need 7 votes, but 2 have to be affiliated with the Democrats, 2 have to be affiliated with the Republicans, and 2 have to be affiliated with neither Democrats or Republicans, and then plus 1 extra person. So that will be the process with regards to how that will be decided. Thank you, Trevor, for that question. Morgan, WZZM.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. I appreciate you doing this and sitting down with all of us. I have a couple questions. I'll keep it short to just two. So West Michigan is growing like crazy right now, and there's a lot of feedback from our community talking about Ottawa County, and I believe it is the Senate. They want to change Ottawa County from having one Senate district to 3, splitting up the county. You know, there's a lot of backlash with that. Obviously, I know that you're taking everything into consideration. You have a hard job to do, but what is sort of your protocol with separating different aspects of the same county? Do you have a reason why, or did it just work the best?
I'll begin the conversation on this. Ottawa, what you described with Ottawa County is the same as the Midland Bay City type of criteria. We have opposing views on that. Relative to mapping, though, we've got a lot of comments about how people want counties to be whole and not split up. And mathematically, that just doesn't work throughout the entire state. And by following the Voting Rights Act and the number of people we're required to have within each district, we're going to have certain counties that are going to get split, and other counties that will not. And we'll have to make that determination at some point and come to a decision, mainly based on public comment. That's why it's important to get public comment into the hearings.
Great, thank you. And I guess another one has to deal with diversity and inclusion. Just looking at the Board of Commissioners, I noticed that it is primarily Caucasian. And I'm wondering how in certain districts such as Detroit or Flint, you feel that you are able to incorporate different perspectives and ways of living more than just, you know, following the guidelines of the procedure. It is definitely interesting to see who is on the committee.
Yeah, I mean, I think the answer to that is we listen to the people. Everywhere we've been in this state, we have all sorts of people from all different backgrounds showing up, and we are listening to what people have to say, regardless of where they're at, regardless of what their background may or may not be. We're listening, and we continue to do so. So I think that is how we represent those communities, is by sincerely hearing what they're saying and trying to incorporate their feedback whenever possible.
Yeah, and the makeup of the commission was random. It could have, theoretically, it could have ended up with nobody from Detroit. We don't have anybody from the UP, and that was one of the comments that we got. They wanted to know why they weren't represented on the commission. But it was a random process. It was performed by the Department of State. And I believe they hired some consultants who randomly drew the people. And there's a video on YouTube if you care to look at that drawing process. So that's available to everyone to take a look at. You indicated that there was 2 people from Detroit on the commission. We also have a third person that lives in Detroit. He's a Caucasian. And we've had at least one other commissioner has spent their youth and around the Detroit area and the close Detroit suburbs, and is very knowledgeable about that as well. So anyways, like I said, it's a random process, and it is what it is.
Great, and I just have one final thing, and then you can move on to somebody else. My last thing just has to deal with the congressional districts. So we have one where Grand Rapids may be combined with Kalamazoo. So when that happens, 2 of our incumbents will then be going against each other. I'm sorry if you mentioned it earlier, but I would love for you to go a little bit more in depth with, you know, are you speaking with the congresspeople about, I guess, the changes that could be made in this, or is this just totally separate? You know, do you have a plan? I know that that's happening in a couple other areas.
Absolutely not. There is no communication whatsoever with any incumbent or candidate as relates to this process. This is clearly the Michigan Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission. We have 7 rank criteria. That is not happening anywhere across the state. No consultation with any lawmaker whatsoever at all. I can't be more emphatic about that.
Great, thank you for clarifying that. I appreciate
Thank you.
it.
Claire Henderson, Detroit Free Press.
Great, thank you so much for holding this press conference. So I also have 2 questions. The first is for the November 5th vote on the proposed maps. Wondering if the commissioners could speak to whether the goal is to put forward multiple plans and give the commission options ahead of the December 30th vote, or work toward a single consensus plan to put forward.
That goes once again to deliberations, Claire, and that would be kind of premature with regards to what the commission's going to do. So unfortunately, we're not able to comment on that. You have another question?
Sure. So reflecting back on the mapping process that was just completed, I know that there were some last minute decisions. There was that Friday vote to suspend the commission's mapping process and put forward a state Senate plan, and then reconvening Monday, the commission voted to retake that vote. And so I'm just wondering, commissioners, if you see any need to make improvements to the process for deliberation after you all reconvene following the public hearings, and what improvements you would like to see.
I think this is where we have to deliberate first. I think we are interested in continuous process improvement. We want that. We want to be efficient, but we also recognize this is an iterative process, right? It's not a linear process. And so we will, try it, trust, right? See if the process is working for us. And if it doesn't work, then we'll change it. That's the independent part. And we will, just take one step at a time.
Sue can talk about that, Claire. Let's, as you know, Claire, because we've talked about in the past, we have changed our mapping process and procedures going back to Commissioner Rothorn as a continuous quality improvement process. So it would be a mistake for anyone to think that we're stuck with what we have. If there's ways to improve the process, the commission under our leadership of our executive director have come back, and I'm not sure what version it's on, Sue, right now, but you could probably speak to it as we continue to improve our process to #draw fair maps.
And we are working in version 10.10, most recently adopted as amended on October 10th. It is a learning process. This has never been done before in the state of Michigan. So we have 13 randomly selected commissioners. You have staff who have never served an independent redistricting commission before. So we were all learning together and growing together. And we learn as we go, and we do what makes the most sense and what's going to work the best to create fair and transparent maps.
Thank you, Claire. Dave Eggert, Associated Press.
Hi, thanks for doing the call. I wanted to follow up on something earlier about the Voting Rights Act. There was a mention that the commission doesn't necessarily have to have majority African American districts to comply. You could either have majority minority districts when you factor in other minorities, or you could go below the 50% threshold. Can you address the criticism and concern of at least so far some African American legislatures who are concerned that essentially Black voters may not be able to elect African American representatives, under the current maps?
I'll just say again, we hear the concern. It is not falling on deaf ears. We hear it, right? Each commissioner hears it, and we understand the fears, right? That's part of the public comment. And we're also data driven, right? And we have a legal process that we are methodically working through. So I guess we need the data that helps us understand the fears, right? Can we substantiate it? Is it right? We know that we hear the fears, and we're going to do something about it. And what that something is, we need the data. We need to understand if it's 40%, if it's 50%, is it 60%? What that percentage is, we need data to help us. And we do have experts who have given us an analysis, and that is why right? It's at the threshold it is,
Mhm.
right? That is why it's under 50%. They believe, and we believe that it is right now the best process to help minorities elect their candidates of choice.
Chair Zatella, can you talk about the Voting Rights Act and what our council has shared with us with regards to that? Because it has been reviewed by our voting rights attorney.
Yeah, so our voting rights attorney has advised us that minority majority districts actually aren't required under the Voting Rights Act. And what we had done was a very robust analysis by a racially polarized voting expert, Dr. Lisa Hanley. And so she looked at the voting history in the state of Michigan, particularly in Metro Detroit area and other areas where there are significant minority populations, and was able to determine a percentage where minority individuals are able to elect their candidates of choice. And that is what is driving our conversation and driving the map drawing that we've been doing are these percentages that have been presented, and they're available on our website, www.michigan.gov/MICRC, has that analysis where you can look at it and look at the analysis by Dr. Hanley of what percentages of particular populations would be required in order for those individuals to be able to elect their candidates of choice. And that is what's driving the map drawing that we've been doing. And as a result of that, lowering those percentages. And if you look at the current maps in Metro Detroit in particular, you have some districts that are 80, 85, 90% African-American. And what we have done is taken those areas and divided them into multiple districts so that there's actually more districts where minority voters will be able to elect their candidates of choice, which should actually have the effect of increasing the representation among the African-American community, which I think, number one, complies with the Voting Rights Act, and number two, should actually have a better result for people than the current maps.
Yeah, and I agree with that. That's the approach we've been taking, and we've been following the advice of our voting rights attorney. But all we're doing is setting up the foundation for that to happen. And there's a lot that has to happen afterwards to make that come true.
Mhm.
The parties have to get the right person running for office. That person's got to convince the public in their district that they're the right person to elect. And the people have to turn out to vote, just like they have to turn out to our hearings and give us their opinions.
All right. Thank you. Tess with Midland Daily News.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, Tess.
Hi, thank you all so much. I won't ask for a deliberation, but I did want to clarify with Commissioner Doug Clark. When you had initially described how some Midland constituents favor the city to be with Bay City and others favor Midland to be with the county, which map or maps were you referring to?
I don't have the list of maps in front of me, but it was, as I recall, the House, was it the House districts? So what?
Congressional. It's the
Oh,
congressional where we,
districts.
yeah, we
Yeah, that
have,
was the congressional districts, and the whole discussion around Midland Township and Midland being together is the watershed and the problems that they're having with the watershed in that area. And the other point of view was keeping with the industrial base that Midland has with Bay City and Flint and Saginaw. Does that help?
Tess, does that help?
Yes, thank you so much. I just wanted to clarify that it was the congressional map. Thank you so much.
Okay.
No, thank you, Tess. Appreciate you being here. All right, I see two hands and we're going to conclude after that. John Hewitt, and John, can you identify your media organization? I think I missed that the last time. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm with WWJ, and mine's more procedural, so forgive me. But obviously November 5th, December 30th, just addressing, so this next series of meetings, I'm assuming then will be the final public in-person opportunities. And then when is the deadline, if you will, that the maps will be deemed final?
Well, there's actually a 45-day public comment period after the commission takes a vote on November 5th. And people will be able to provide public comment in the portal, or they'll be able to come on our meetings. We have meetings set for November 18th, December 2nd, December 16th, and December 30th. So there will be a 45-day public comment period after the second round of public hearings and after the commission votes with regards to proposed maps to bring back forth to the public again. And then the idea is to adopt the one map each for congressional, House, and Senate on December 30th.
Thank you.
Ben Conware?
Yep, thank you for the follow-up. I appreciate it. I'm trying to drill down as a follow-up on Jacob and Dave's question. I understand that you hear the fears of constituents or, people who are giving you public comment, and you said you'll react to them. And I know that you have consultants giving you what appears to be, data-driven conclusions about VRA compliance. But I think what we're looking for is more of a response that's contemplative, than we hear you and we have data. Several have said that they're concerned about the quality of that advice. That includes political science professors, law professors, Republicans and Democrats on both sides. Can you say right here and now that you're truly comfortable with the advice that you've been given?
Yes.
Yeah, I am. I have the utmost respect for our voting rights attorney, Mr. Adelson, and the advice he's given us at this point.
Did that answer your question, Ben?
Yes and no. I mean, I do know that, Doug, you brought up some of these concerns in the meeting yourself. So I guess I'm trying to, understand your thoughts on this, because in one breath you said, I questioned this advice, and now you're here saying, I'm totally comfortable with it. So I'm just, perspective.
Well, I mean, let's put it in context so he can respond. Ben, so what are you referring to specifically? Ben, are you still here?
It looks like he's muted.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear
sorry,
you now.
it wouldn't let me unmute. I apologize. I wish I could give you a specific instance. There have been a bunch of meetings back to back. It's hard to pinpoint the exact thing, but during the last little bit of deliberations, the mapping phase, I know that Doug, challenged some advice. He challenged Bruce directly, saying, "Hey, we've been hearing this. Can you just clarify your advice? So we have a better understanding of what you're telling us." I mean, I remember specifically, Doug, you were the one who pointed that out.
Correct.
Commissioner Clark, do you remember that?
Yeah, I do. And
Okay.
I think it's our job to challenge the voting rights attorney and get a better explanation of it. It's our job to challenge Dr. Henley on the partisan fairness and the other advice that she's given us. So I look at that as we're doing our job.
Great. Jonathan, we will give you grace.
Thanks, I appreciate it. Just on this note, apologies if this has been discussed in public hearings, but I haven't sat through all of them. But the Commissioner Rothhorn, I think you mentioned still needing some more data for the Voting Rights Act analysis. What is that data that you're still awaiting for to really be comfortable with either that 35 or 40% threshold?
It's a voter turnout report. It's essentially helping us understand the turnout in each district that we've drawn. And it's not as simple as, just pressing a button and getting that information.
Jonathan, that answer your question?
Yeah, if I could just follow up to clarify. So what you have now is just strictly the racial composition, but what you're looking at is along those lines, who actually shows up to both primary, I take it, and general elections?
What we have is we have election results, not just simply racial results. Let me be very clear. These are election results that we're talking about, right? And each election, right? We don't know the identity of each voter, right? What we have are election results that have been recompiled. And I think that's what Commissioner Clark and Commissioner Zatella have been talking about, right? We have these experts that have given us an ability for us to make a really educated guess, right? Recompiling all these election results, right? And then when we draw our proposed district, right, we recompile those election results and try to understand what does our new district, what might that voter, what might those election results look like? But that assumes that each person is going to turn out to vote. It's sort of 100% voter turnout. And what we need to do is get a drilled down set of data that allows us to understand what is the voter turnout in that proposed district, right? We're doing, right, best guesses. This is data driven, right? But this is as much art as it is science. And I think everyone knows that. So this is, right, that's very clear. These are election results that we're compiling, not just racial. And it's voter turnout in these reconfigured or these proposed districts that we've drawn to help us understand, do we need to bump the cushion, right? To increase the cushion from what our racially polarized voting analysis has given us in each district, right? To bump it from, let's say, 35% up to just 37%, right? Because of voter turnout. Or does it need to actually go up to 45% because of the voter turnout and the data that we're receiving in that proposed district?
And since we're data driven, it allows us to make the best decision possible and be able to justify it based on the data that's presented to us and that we work with and the advice we get from our consultants.
Thanks.
Jonathan, answer your question. Jonathan, answer your question.
For the most part, yeah, thanks.
Well, no, we don't want to know for the most part. We're not hiding or ducking anyone. So
No,
if we're
no.
not answering your question, let's
That-
do it. Let's make sure we do it.
If I'm unclear, it's my own fault. So that was a great answer. Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, no problem. If not, Sergio's not afraid to call us. We know that already. All right, Jacob, I see your hand. This is the last question. Go ahead.
All right, hey, thanks for squeezing in the extra question. So this is with respect to Commissioner Clark kind of talking about the splitting up the counties issue. The commissioners, do you get the sense that, when it comes to communities of interest, it seems like some people, believe that, keeping their county whole or their city whole is their community of interest. How do you balance that with the fact that, splitting those lines are so far down the list, but, you have the communities of interest you have to listen to. Have you gotten that sense and kind of how is that factoring into your thoughts on these maps?
Well, I mean, Jacob, you are clear that the communities of interest is the third ranked criteria and reflect county, city, and municipal boundaries as the sixth ranked one. So, I mean, let's not change the ranked order. I mean, this is the process that the commission has followed. This is what was approved. And so, I don't want to get into any trick questions here, but and community of interest, the definition is very clear. It's historical or cultural characteristics or economic interests. It does not say county, city, or municipal boundaries. So, I mean, I think you know the answer already, because it's right there in the Constitution under our 7 ranked redistricting criteria. I'm sorry, Commissioner Teller, did you want to say something?
I was just going to say the same thing, that consideration of municipal lines is a separately ranked criteria. If it was intended to be included as a community of interest, it would have been included in the description of a community of interest, and it is not. So we have to follow that ranked criteria, as Mr. Woods so eloquently indicated. And, regardless of what individuals might think about that ranked criteria, we still have to follow it as it's listed and laid out. So.
Well, once again, I want to thank each and every one of you for coming out. We want to thank Good Marketing and its stellar team for putting this together for us. And just want you to know that we want everyone to come out to our public hearings to show up and speak up, #show up and speak up, and assist the Michigan Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission to #draw fair maps. Once again, we thank each and every one of you are here today as members of the press for covering this. And we see that Mike Nolan has a comment before we leave the meeting. Mike?
Yep, thanks very much, Edward. Just for all the reporters who stayed on today, thank you so much for your patience. And as we come to your community, we'll be reaching out to hook up with you at these public hearings. And finally, if you do have any more questions that weren't asked or answered today that you want moving forward, don't hesitate to reach out. My contact information is on the top of the media advisory that you all received yesterday and again this morning. So thank you very much.